Today we're back reading some more entitled people and it's going to be so fun. It's a brand new day today and there are even more entitled people to read about. Where do they keep coming from? I can't believe this. It feels like there's an infinite supply of nice guys and entitled people. But yeah, I'm so excited to read this and I hope you guys have a wonderful time. My entitled neighbour wanted to join us for dinner. My husband wasn't home and it was just me with my 2 children and my cousin who was visiting. It was raining outside and my neighbour rang the doorbell. Let's call her Elaine. She said that she was locked out of her house and needed to wait for her husband. I don't know this neighbour very well. We recently purchased our home. I said that she could wait in the entryway of our home. There was a bench and she could play with her phone. She asked if she could join us for dinner and I said I don't know her very well and my husband isn't home. She said that she doesn't mind. Wow, what? I said, but I mind because it's a safety issue. She said that she feels safe and that I shouldn't worry. I said, I don't feel safe. She got quiet for 30 seconds and said that she's an occupational therapist and a healthcare professional, so we should feel fine. I said, no, she can wait in the hall or she can leave. I'll bring her a bowl of food. She was on the phone for 3 hours and yelling, saying how we're horrible people for not letting her in. She poured the bowl of soup I gave her into my kid's shoes in the shoe rack opposite the bench she was sitting on in the hallway. I can't believe she thought she was entitled to come into a stranger's home. What? Is that real? Pouring the soup that you gave them, which you didn't need to give them, into your kid's shoes? What's wrong with people? Oh my god. Edit, the hallway in my home is 12 feet long and has 2 closets, a long shoebox and a bench. The hallway and entryway is the entrance into my home. There's a door leading into the house at the end of the hall and it locks. This door opens into a greater hall that separates the kitchen and the living room. The door leading into the actual home part of the house is always locked and I locked it and I didn't let her in there. She wanted to go inside and eat in the kitchen with my kids and cousin. I don't know her very well. I did give her food and I allowed her to come inside the hallway entryway bit because it was raining. We were in the kitchen and we heard her on the phone for hours and didn't know what to do. We recently moved into this neighborhood. We waited for her to leave and we went into the hall, saw the mess that she made by pouring the soup into the kids' shoes. The shoes were washed immediately and the shoebox was wiped down. If I had known her better and or if my husband was home, I would have invited her inside. Holy, not going to be letting them in again or anywhere near your house. And also, what do you mean they were there for 3 hours? That's so long for them to just sit there. If this happened to me, I feel like I wouldn't even be able to believe that it actually did happen. It sounds like a weird dream or something. A neighbor asked me when I'm cleaning an apartment. First time posting, also English isn't my first language. My male 37 upstairs neighbor was found after 3 days lying on the floor of his apartment. Oh god, an ambulance took him away. I heard the banging on his door. I found out what happened and I spent the next 3 days finding out which neighbor had the spare key and then rescued his dog, a sweet 18-year-old Jack Russell. So far it's been 3 weeks that I've been taking care of his dog. Bought food, showered her, 4 walks a day, the works. I live in a Hasidic Jewish neighborhood, which means that very few people have dogs. No one else would have taken her, but she's very recognizable in the neighborhood. An older woman from the building next door asked me if this dog was my sick neighbor's. I said yes. She then asked me when I'm going to clean his apartment. I asked her why doesn't she? She got all flustered at me. My sick neighbor is a widower without kids. He doesn't really know how to treat a dog, but he loves her and spoils her like a child. He's a lovely man, but clearly with problems I won't go into. His apartment was a biohazard. Edit and update. This story isn't to complain about my community. Most communities are more complex than what they seem, and while I would not like to live the way that ultra-orthodox live, I have no problem with them living how they wish. I wouldn't want to be Amish either. I do have a problem with their political leaders, but we can live in disagreement. Please don't make this a race thing. I am not an immigrant here. The lady was just assuming things because I was helping. Apparently my grandpa was her doctor. My neighbor's still in rehab. Doggo is still with us until his pop is better. Right, okay, so they assumed that it was your responsibility or something. Good on you for taking care of the dog. I'm a bit confused whether they're entitled or just sort of confused. But yeah, good on you for making sure the dog's okay. Entitled person tries to skip the entire will call line because he just needs to pick up his tickets real quick with a Starbucks bonus. I think about this guy every now and then and giggle. I was in the will call line at a Renaissance festival a few years back. It was before they had an online cell phone ticket system, so if you bought online you had to get your tickets at will call. This led to a very long line at will call. I was standing in line to pick ours up and a man walked up and was standing next to me, looking at the counter and then kind of tried to get in front of me. I pointed out that the line was behind me and he said, "Oh yeah, but I just have to grab my will call ticket tickets real quick? It won't take long. I stared him dead in the eye and said, yes, we all do. That's why we're in the will call line picking up tickets. He said again, well, I'll be real quick. They've just left it will call for me. I again repeated, right, this is the will call line. All of us have tickets at will call, where the line I'm standing in has formed. If you want to get your tickets, you need to go to the back of it. He threw his hands down in a huff and walked to the back of the line. I thought of him again recently when I was in the drive-thru at Starbucks. Some guy in a Mercedes convertible with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth pulled up going the wrong way on the other side of the car in front of me that was at the window. He asked the customer to ask the person handing out coffee to give the customer his mobile order and then pass it to him through their window so he didn't have to wait in line or get out of his car to get it. Thankfully, the Starbucks employee told him to kick rocks and wait in the drive-thru or come in. Why are people like this? I don't know, but it's so infuriating. Like, it was infuriating to read about this, let alone be in that situation. We do need a t-shirt that says the audacity on it. The audacity of some people. Our neighbors took our fence while we were on a road trip. Perhaps there's a better subreddit for this post, but this is the first one I thought to go to. Well, the title explains most of this, but I'm fuming right now, so I gotta rant this one out. So, we've had issues with our attached neighbors from the moment that we bought our house. Originally, it was just 60-something female and her 18-something male grandson. The day we moved in, we tried to make small talk and introduce ourselves. The woman was dropping hints that the old owners used to bake her goodies all the time and she missed it. That's a bit rude, isn't it? Kind of insinuating that we should be like them because she deserved to be treated like a princess. The grandson introduced himself as the worst person in town. What an intro. So afterwards, we just tried to keep a friendly distance and stay out of their way. Suddenly, after about a week of living here, they began screaming at odd hours, blasting music and banging on the walls. The police were at their house for domestic disputes monthly due to the woman calling the cops on her grandson. We've lived here for over 2 years now, fixing up our house and making it beautiful and adding value to it. Up until this point, we've let them have their problems because it's not like we have kids to worry about protecting. It's just my partner and I in our mid-20s. Fast forward to last month, one evening after it got dark, we heard what we thought were gunshots right in our backyard. Mind you, we live in a downtown suburb with an older person facility right behind our house, so we were a little concerned. We have cameras that we installed just to be safe, so we checked them. The grandson and his friends were sitting in their yard talking about shoot another round. They'll just think it's fireworks, and that's a 45 round. Unfortunately, it was dark and we couldn't see them shoot it, but the camera picked up the sound of them shooting off 9 rounds, so we naturally called the cops. The kids then left and the cops couldn't prove that anyone was on the premises with a gun, so they let it go. In the beginning of August, the woman decided to let her daughter, sister-in-law, and their children move in with them, for who knows what reason. Before this, they'd only come to visit on holidays, and at one time they left their infant child on the street in a carrier for over half an hour until I knocked and let them know that she was out there. None of my business, but from there on the screaming and yelling got worse, and this time with crying kids in the mix. I had half a mind to call CPS, but I've heard the awful things that happen to kids in the system, so I couldn't bring myself to do it. This month we were fortunate enough to go on a road trip to see some cool places and visit family. We left the end of August and we were checking our cameras when we had service, which was not much. One day we get a call from our unattached neighbor saying that our attached neighbors were building a really ugly shed with spare planks from who knows where. We tried not to worry too much because up to this point their crappy shed wasn't our problem. Besides being an eyesore in the neighborhood, we just enjoyed the rest of our trip and let it go. Occasionally checking to make sure they weren't in our yard or anything, since it's nicely fenced in and gated. Didn't catch anything on camera, but them building their crappy shed. We arrived home a few hours ago to find that they dug out and stole a part of our fence, metal post and chain link fence, to create a back fence and gate for their yard. This left huge holes in our back parking area that my partner almost tripped and fell into. They also tied it into our fence incorrectly, pulling our fence lopsided, basically damaging it. Unfortunately, our camera didn't catch them taking our fence. It was just in our yard in one frame and then in theirs the next. We want to press charges, but we aren't sure how to go about it. We checked our seller's disclosure stating that the previous owners of our house had to put the fence in, so we know it was our fence that they took. I'm so livid, and I know yelling at them won't fix it, but how can you be so entitled that you can't even buy your own chain link fence, but instead you steal your neighbors when they aren't home? Thank you for reading this rant. Entitled people suck. Yeah, oh my god, they 100% do suck. They left a comment here that says, as of where we stand after speaking to the, is it bureau or borough? I'm not good with words, guys. A few hours ago, it seems that the fence is on the easement, and they'll be facing retaliation for taking it out without permission. Also, they did not get a permit for their shed, and they will either have to pay the permit fee or remove it within a certain amount of time. I feel like we won this a little, but also still concerned for our safety, considering that we were the ones that brought up the shed being unpermitted. covered. Even if we got some reimbursement from homeowners, we'd probably do the work ourselves regardless, so I don't know if it would cost as much since labor wouldn't be an issue. Yeah, wow, I can't even imagine living next to somebody like this, or living next to people like this. That's so infuriating. Entitled siblings demand that I help them move. My sibling is moving out of their current apartment into another one. They first loudly stated that I don't need anyone to help me move, but after a while they kept calling me, complaining that it's so much to do and whining that no one is helping. I just said, knowing fully well what would come next. They asked, "You don't want to help me?" which I declined. They said okay in a sad tone. A day later, my mum calls me and said that my sibling is so sad and disappointed that I won't help them. I couldn't care less. They never helped me move either or even visited me for an evening. I did help when they moved into that apartment and several times later with my car, even when they previously called it ugly AF, but then it's good enough to haul stuff because it's a big truck. They also lightly insulted me a day before and much more times over the year. I even thought about taking a break from our relationship. Now they expect me to help them move? No, you don't get to threaten people and make fun of their belongings and still get help from them. Yeah, I hope the wholesome memes are good today. We're gonna need it after this. Entitled mum demands I give up my airline seat because her child deserves it more. So, I'm on a 5-hour flight for a work conference. I booked a window seat because I like to lean against the wall to sleep. I board the plane, settle in and everything seems fine. Then enters entitled mum, EM and her kid EK. Entitled mum staring at me. You're in our seats. Me, I don't think so. This is 23A, right? Entitled mum, yes, but my son really wants to look out the window. Oh my god, what? Me, I booked this seat specifically, sorry. Entitled mum, well, my son has never flown before and he should get to experience it. You should give your seat to him. He deserves it more. That's not how that works. People are so annoying. Me, I understand, but I also paid for this seat. At this point, the flight attendant FA comes over to see what the commotion's about. Flight attendant, is everything all right here? Entitled mum, no, he won't let my son sit by the window. Flight attendant, ma'am, the seats are assigned and he's in the correct seat. Entitled mum, this is outrageous. My child deserves this experience. Flight attendant, I can't change assigned seats. You'll have to sit in your assigned seats. Entitled mum huffs and puffs but finally takes her assigned middle seat next to me, muttering about how some people are so selfish. 5 hours sitting next to entitled... Yeah, I was about to say, do you have to sit next to them? 5 hours sitting next to entitled mum was not fun, but I held onto my window seat. My comfort was worth more than her entitlement. So yeah, that's my experience. I can't believe people like this actually exist. Wow, me neither. That's so bad. They genuinely feel like their kid deserves it. For what reason? Like, what's the logic here? It doesn't make any sense. Well, if you felt like they deserved it, maybe you should have paid for it. But yeah, that's right. How is this real? How is a person being like, you know what? This is a very reasonable thing to say. I'm gonna try and get somebody out of a seat that they paid for because I feel like it should go to my kid. No, okay. Entitled guy demanded my oh my god, another one. Entitled guy demanded my window seat for an 11-hour flight to Cairo. This was a while back, but an excellent example of sheer entitlement. Flight from New York to Cairo. The seat configuration was 3 rows of seats, 2 window and aisle on each side with 4 or 5 middle seats in the center. I had a window over a wing. I chose the seat with sleep in mind many months in advance. While I do frequently travel, I'm not going to pretend I often jet away to Egypt. So this vacay was very planned out. I was settled into my seat when my aisle mate approached his and asked if I'd be willing to switch with his wife so the two of them could sit together. The two of them seemed to be with a group of similar age travelers. It appeared to me based on chatter that it may have been some kind of group tour. Knowing the industry and that organizers may be negligent in seat assignments, I was absolutely willing to consider a swap if the seat was comparable. So naturally, I asked where his wife's seat was. He pointed and she waved at me from the center of the middle seats. No, sorry, I'm gonna keep my seat, was my response. Instead of switching out with a middle seat person who I'm sure would have been delighted to take an aisle so we could sit next to his wife, he sits down in his seat and started trying to argue with me how the view is bad anyway since it's over the wing. I won't see anything since it's mostly overnight and dark, etc. I just replied that I plan to sleep against it and I decline again. I'm trying to be pleasant, I'm a pleaser, and I'm stuck next to this guy. He continues to bug me like the mosquito he may have been in a former life and asked me, if you had a husband, wouldn't you want to sit with him? At this point, I'm totally irritated. I stated that I do have a husband, and if my husband and I were traveling together, I'd not only ensure that our seats were assigned together, but if they weren't, I'd give up my aisle and go sit with my spouse in the middle. He then shut up with direct comments, but grumbling persisted throughout the entire flight, just not to my face as he pretended to ignore my existence. Perfect ending. He was still grumbling when we deplaned. No way. Oh, come on. I know I'm being super rude and unreasonable, but just do what I say because the whole world revolves around me, okay? Like, as frustrating as these posts are, they're so fun to read. I think I'm genuinely addicted. Entitled Random thinks I'm his secretary. So this one was a few years back. Some people I knew from back home were using my phone number for various things at quick loan places. I changed my number and I sorted it out. 2 years after getting my new number, I'm still getting random calls and messages for the guy who previously had that number. Crappy job offers, hookup offers, random requests for favors, which was annoying, but I just kept saying wrong number and carrying on with my day. One day I'm chilling with a friend of mine and I get a phone call from a number I don't know. I answer it and it turns out to be the guy that previously had the number, and this mother flipper has the nerve to start trying to quiz me about who phoned for him, like I was writing it all down. He actually got mad at me for not somehow informing him about the job offers. I told him I was not his secretary and to get off his lazy ass and tell these people he changed the numbers before hanging up on him. Promptly changed my number again afterwards, and wow, was it nice not answering at least one message a week. Yeah, what? And the fact that they're not apologizing to you for this being such a pain is hilarious. Like, buddy, you've got it all wrong. I shouldn't be apologizing to you. You should be apologizing to me. Yeah, that's so unbelievable. Let me know down below if you're enjoying the episode so far, guys. To say I'm enjoying this is an understatement. Entitled Friend messes around and finds out. I've known Colette for over a decade. She has kids from a previous relationship and is one of those obnoxious parents, the kind who honestly believe that her toddlers are perfectly behaved angels who can be taken anywhere and never cause any upset. She's completely delusional and thinks that her kids never cry or have emotions other than sunshine and maturity beyond their years. Correct me if I'm wrong, but kids who are like that tend to be that way due to fear of consequences, painful consequences. Colette isn't the greatest human, but she also doesn't abuse her kids. She's actually on the other end of the spectrum and spoils them rotten. Earlier this year, she married a single dad. This did put a strain on our relationship because I wouldn't listen to her badmouth her stepson, who I'll call Caleb, age 7. Caleb is on the spectrum and has some issues with impulse control and emotional regulation. He's in therapy for that, but Colette hates him regardless. I could endure listening to her delusions about how perfect she thinks her kids are, but shut her down for the nasty things she tried to say about Caleb. What remained of our friendship broke entirely a few months ago. That was when Caleb's mum said that she needed a break and his dad needed to step up. Colette lost her mind. I'll let your imagination fill in the blank for all of the ableist and hateful trash that she vomited. I told her that she should have known this was a possibility. Isn't it obvious that if you date someone with minor children, that you have to be prepared that there could be a full-time responsibility? Colette screamed that of course she knew, but that only applied if Caleb's mother died. It wasn't fair that she ruined Colette's fairy tale romance where her new husband stepped in as dad for her kids, and Caleb was someone else's problem. Oh god. I heard through the grapevine that Colette is getting divorced. Apparently she told her husband that her kids are perfect and his are not, and he has to choose the better family that they created, her 2 kids and him, or the quote-unquote out-of-control brat even his ex doesn't want anymore. And of course he chose Caleb. Knowing Colette, she's probably angry at everyone but the person who actually causes the mess, herself. God, that's awful. I know the word toxic gets used a lot, but people like this are so toxic, and it's so good that they're not putting up with it either. You gotta distance yourself from stuff like this. And yeah, on that note, I feel like it's time we read something wholesome, guys. The author of this textbook casually throws in pictures of his cat, the author's first cat, the author's second cat proofreading the manuscript. No way, that's so funny. They love their cat so much that they made sure to put him in there, and for absolutely no reason as well. But yeah, this sort of stuff definitely does need more cat pictures in it. The H in ghost is actually a little ghost waving to you. Wow, a lowercase h does look like a waving ghost, and I'm never gonna unsee this. When you're watching your dogs nap and you realize how much you love them and how lucky you are to have them. Like, you have no idea how much you mean to me. That's so cute. Frog bread. He came out a little chunky and I love him. Oh, I think we all love him. But also, how could you eat this? At this point, you've pretty much made a pet. You can't eat the beautiful pet frog bread. And once again, thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful time. And if you did and you want to see more entitled people, make sure you like and subscribe. And the comment of the day goes to Errant Wins. I love how these videos are always like, well, this content is going to be terrifying, but we're going to have so much fun. Yeah, it's kind of confusing, isn't it? But it's so true though. I feel like they are super fun episodes, even though what we're reading is definitely terrifying. It's a nice balance in the universe, you know? The terrifying and the wholesome. I hope you guys enjoy watching these episodes as much as I enjoy making them. And yeah, thank you for all the support. It means so much to me. me. And as always, make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And you know what I'm about to say because I say it every single day. Bye!